Today we are going to go back in time and show you guys that reversal signal, but first let's get through some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Nvidia. So if you did miss out, this is the SPY, and we did give you those updated monthly and weekly risk ranges, okay? This is for the week ahead, and 68% of the time you do land within the zone, and this is what options has priced in for the whole month of December, okay? So we want to pay attention to it because it's not a huge range for a month, which is very interesting. What we're going to do is give you guys some ultimately bullish and bearish cases here. Okay, the SPY is at this point using that 9-day moving average on the daily to spring higher. Okay, we're supported by that 9-day moving average at this point, and that means that we could go and test the top of this Bollinger Band again and maybe even get to that weekly or monthly expected move this week. Now, we do notice the difference between the SPY and the Qs, which is what we're going to talk about later. And so we also need to pay attention to the downside. The downside of this range we'll need to pay attention to. And I would say the other bullish case here would be if we do get a minor pullback, let's say we just pull back into like our 20-day moving average, which is a very good spot for investors to jump back in. Maybe that's all that actually happens. That's all the pullback we get, and we start to see some reversal signal from there. We'll update you on that, but that is overall one of the bullish cases is a smaller pullback to come retest the 20 and then get some support from the 22 head higher. Now to the bear side, I was talking about these zones in here, right? These zones that I found to be pretty important. You're noticing one of them lines up pretty well with the bottom Bollinger at this point. But if we do get some kind of move downward, some kind of more meaningful pullback, I would be looking for this to come outside of that risk range, of that monthly risk range, maybe come down all the way and use this 50, maybe even touch the bottom of the Bollinger at this point. And then we have to see, are we going to see some basing out from that area? So we really want to pay attention to all these gaps, right? But right now it's looking like because this move that is priced in isn't that big, we actually could start to hold up at higher levels. You know, I originally was looking at this deeper level here, but because we keep trickling up, this actually could mean that we don't have much priced in and maybe we do actually hold up just outside of this range, and we'll see if we're basing out at that point. What I've been mentioning on my channel a lot is if you are confused of where this is going to, you know, if we do see that pullback, where is this going to base out? Really, you can just pay attention to this MACD. This MACD is well within positive territory. So if you do get some kind of sudden roll down and then that is able to curl back up, you'll notice that crossing happening in positive territory on the MACD, which is very important. I go over this in my course, which is down in the description now. So you can grab that for 50% off for the whole month this month, all the way up until 2024. But you just notice that if we are in positive territory, roll up, it's a good sign, some good probabilities that you are going to see an extension of this move going forward into the end of the year. Shorter time frames, we've been paying attention to the hourly on the SPY, and we've been saying, hey, yes, you do have all these divergences, right? You have the big divergence here and you get a steeper one down here. The only thing that we've been mentioning a lot on this channel is the fact that it needs to get into negative territory to really start to break down. So as you can see right now, we are not in negative territory. Therefore, when we do roll up, we're still going to see that positive trend continue. That seems to be what's happening as of right now in the SPY. So you really need this to roll over and get deep into that negative territory. Maybe take out both of these lows since both of them are sitting at the same point, and then start that negative trend, right? We want to see that negative trend begin and be able to hold below into this negative territory for a little bit of time. Paying attention to some kind of overall cup handle situation going on right here. Like if we're able to close down to this level, maybe gap support comes into play and we actually bounce right above our monthly expected move, and then we could see some further breakdown. So that's overall my bearish take on the hourly kind of things that I'm looking for to set up. But really, I'm just paying attention if this is actually able to get into negative territory to start that negative trend, most likely by taking out these lows down here. Sorry about that. Someone subscribed while I was filming, but thank you so much for subscribing. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you find this information helpful. So the Qs are a similar story, but you see that crossing of the MACD is very close to happening at this point. So if we do see a down day, that is most likely going to cross, which means the momentum could come down, but you are still in positive territory. So whether this thing holds up, you know, at this gap fill right here, whether it comes and tests the monthly range, right? Whether it comes all the way down to the 50, or whether it actually comes down to a full retest of that flag that we broke out of to get this extension. This is mainly what I'm leaning towards, but I am leaning towards that Christmas rally into the end of the year. I think that the MACD is going to roll over, and we are going to see that curl back up into positive territory, which is a very good sign that you have another extension in this overall bullish move. So I guess that would be the bear side on the daily. The bull side on the daily would just be if we are taking back this 9 at this point, and this is where the invalidation can come in. If we actually take out this high and start to move higher, kind of catch up to the SPY, then this signal that we've been talking about between the SPY and the Qs, right? The SPY look like this, the Qs are coming down. That would be invalidated at that point if the Qs are able to catch up to the SPY in the next few days. So we really want to pay attention to that, because if we are seeing that catch up, then you do have a chance to go test that weekly range, and you even have a chance to go test the top of the monthly range as well. Now, the only reason it'll be a little more difficult for the Qs here is because you're a little bit in negative territory, okay? You are creeping into positive territory on the hourly as of right now, but you notice how close we are to it. If we do see some kind of rollover, maybe we do start, really solidifying this negative trend. So you do want to get into deeper parts of this negative territory and really continue that negative trend by staying below this center line. So that's overall what I'm paying attention to. And you can notice if we do take out this low, we would be getting into deeper levels for that negative territory, for that negative trend to continue in the Qs, because this is setting up that negative trend. You have a high, you have a lower high, you have this low. You're just looking for that next move for a lower low at this point in order to really solidify that negative trend. Now to the bull side, yes, we have crossed on that MACD. We've crossed to the downside on that daily MACD, but you can notice on Apple that we are above the 9-day moving average again, and we're closing just outside of this gray area where we've seen a ton of sell-offs. So at this point, this could be some kind of consolidation to head higher. So we really want to pay attention to it. Really, if we do come above this high, you're most likely going to see the hourly come into play, and we will probably go and test the top of this Bollinger up here. Now, if we do pay attention, I was saying to the bear side, I really like this purple zone, and I still kind of do, but because of the timing of, I believe we're going to see the bull run begin halfway through December, then this 179.76 might actually be where I'm paying the most attention to. Lines up pretty well with the 50 at this point, lines up pretty well with our Bollinger Bands that are trying to catch up, and we could see us basing out around that area, which kind of coincides with a bunch of, previous support and resistance from the past, right? We kind of rejected from that area, rejected, but we actually tried to hold up at this area, and then we reject from it again with this bar right here. And then back here, we actually see that big move above it, and then that's where we actually see the full extension. So I do like this purple zone, but I think the probabilities are lining up that we start to base out around that 179. But I'm just going to keep repeating it. The good part about these MACDs being in such positive territory is all you have to do is be patient and look for this to roll back up into positive territory, whether we break down to here or even all the way down to that 179-ish price point. We actually can see that start to reverse, get that crossing on the MACD in positive territory, and you can see that there will be some probabilities leaning in your favor to the upside, another extension of this move in Apple. On the 1 hour, you're going to see why I'm talking about that flagging. It's a very obvious flagging. So what you need from here is some kind of breakdown out of this, right? We need a bigger, selling algorithmic pattern, right? Something like this, but maybe even a little steeper. We want some vertical selling most likely to come in order for us to break out of this consolidation. If you do start to break out to the upside, pay attention to the high. If you start to take out that high and then use it as some support at that point to head higher, that's something to pay attention to. You really want, to the bullish side, this MACD to start to trail up into further positive territory to continue that positive trend. But you're noticing we're very close to that center line. You have divergence all around here, which maybe this is all that's playing out from that divergence. That's why we just want to pay attention. Is it going to curl over and continue into negative territory and break out of this consolidation? Or is it going to see some extension higher outside of this into this positive territory and continue this positive trend? And because the beginning of this week looks like we really could go either way, right? We could go a little bit higher before we see that full-fledged pullback because of some consolidation and the Qs need to catch up to the SPY, things like that. It is very good to know these weekly ranges, and I do give those on my Patreon down in the description. You can grab them right now for all of the individual stocks that we do cover on this channel. Amazon's pretty cool. I've really been playing with this idea of this left, this head, and maybe some kind of right shoulder forming in the near future. So I do really like still this price point of 134.48. And these Bollinger Bands are a little tighter than the other stocks, right? They're a little bit tighter. So we could see a very explosive move from Amazon. Yes, we have crossed on the MACD down here. It doesn't mean that we can't get some kind of reaction up first early on in the week and maybe pay attention to those weekly ranges for Amazon before we see that overall breakdown. So we really want to pay attention to this. Are we actually going to see some, more dramatic selling on the hourly? Because right now, all you're doing is you're getting priced tighter and tighter, and you're struggling to really break out of this wedge cleanly, right? We kind of came a little bit below it. Now we're back in it. We're coming into a point of a trend line here. So do we pop up, maybe actually touch the trend between those two most recent highs? Or do we start to break down and really solidify that we are near that negative territory with some dramatic selling? So it really could go early on in the week. It could go either way. So you really just want to pay attention. Is this remaining in positive territory, or are we able to curl and see a bigger move down into negative territory to start that negative trend? I still believe Tesla has a very good chance to come down to this little zone I have in here. You notice that we actually used it as some, we tried to buy up from it from some support here. We actually broke down below it. We gapped above it to start to go a little bit higher, bounced back into it to give us that trampoline effect. Okay, so we do mark this zone as very important, and I would be paying attention to that 207.42 to the downside. All right, so if we do notice, if we pull into an hourly, let's go with a bullish case as well. So if we do see that extension in stocks, the hourly on Tesla is going to really be easy to see, because we're going to notice that we're back within this consolidation. So I have to say is if we do pop higher, we will be rolling over on the MACD in positive territory, and therefore we maybe could go test this high, or we could see a further extension of this move. So we really want to pay attention to that. There is the possibility that we pop higher, creating a lower high at this point to start that negative trend, right? So we want to pay attention to that, to the bullish side, just in case. But really, you just want to see, is this going to roll down into negative territory and start to take out these lows where we've held up for a long time now? Nvidia actually has that sell signal now on the daily. You're getting that crossing. It was one of the first ones to cross on its daily MACD. So this is why we were saying it looks like Nvidia is leading the market on starting some negative trends. And then a couple days later, we see that start to play out. Okay, we see the negative trends start to form, and Nvidia looks like it's kind of leading this market. And we really just need to see if we're able to break to the upside, to see some more bullishness come in, maybe come and test this high or something like that, and maybe go to the weekly range, the top side of that, before we see some more dramatic selling, or do we start to break down? So this does have a pretty decent size move for the week, priced in from the options. So it's a stock to really pay attention to. And the good part about this is it's starting to get to lower levels, and we actually could see it come into the zone that I've been paying attention to. So if we aren't able to hold up at the 50, I'm really paying attention to this area right in here. Feel like it's a good price. We've actually jumped from that level a few times now, so it could be a place to base out. And all we have to do is pay attention to this MACD, just like the regular other, indices, and then pay attention when it does cross, because it usually means that you're going to see an extension in this overall bullish move into the end of the year. Now we're going to show you guys the hourly on Nvidia and how, you can realize it's really in negative territory. Okay, look how much deeper Nvidia is in its negative territory than any other stock. Okay, so we have consecutive higher lows at this point, or lower highs at this point, and then we do have those consecutive lower lows. Okay, so we have low, 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 lower. So if we do start to break down, you can see we're in that negative territory and we're well deep in it. So we could see that downward move continue and maybe just start to see us keep breaking down into this zone. But you'll notice if we do, pull up some lines here, right? Let's draw some trends real quick. We can see that we're starting to wedge. So it looks like we do have a decent move coming in the very near future, meaning probably the first couple of days of this week. And we can see, is that going to burst higher to set up some kind of, lower high at this point again, to then break down to lower levels, continue the selling pattern? Or are we going to actually see this violate this and come back down to the downside? So we really need to pay attention to stocks as they coil up, because it means that a big move is going to come. Right now, you do have a slight falling wedge. So you do have a little bit more probability of getting some pop out of this in order to maybe collect some more liquidity in here to head lower. Now, if we are heading higher from here, I'd really pay attention to this left here, this head, and draw my line across and say, okay, maybe we pop higher, get some kind of retest, and then get that right shoulder and start to head to higher levels. That would be my bullish take on the hourly, and the bearish case would most likely just be that this negative trend continues. Yields are going down like crazy because Jerome Powell really didn't say anything different. The two chats he had, yes, they're pretty boring, so thank you guys for sticking with me during it, but he really was just repeating the same talking points, which is overall just dovish. Okay, so we're breaking out of this zone. We're at the bottom of the Bollinger Band. We could see this turn around, and the reason I'm saying that is because if we look at TLT, you can see the opposite side of the 10-year yield here is still within that wedging. Okay, we're still within that wedging. We're in positive territory. That's a good sign that these yields are most likely going to start coming down as of next year. But we have a ton of gaps that we could go fill. So I was paying attention to this zone right in here, but I'm really only paying attention to the top of that zone. I don't know if we actually do see a big reaction down in order to really fill this gap down here. So I want to pay attention to higher levels. And I think right in here, this level right here at that, right around that 87.75 could be a good area for us to, if we do break down and see those yields rise a little bit, start to see that basing out and then go to higher levels, see another extension in TLT. Just wanted to point out this level of 1212 on the VIX. I've been talking about it a little bit, and I just wanted to point out one more time, when we get to that level, we see that volatility comes back in. We see volatility comes back in. We see it over and over and over and over again. Now, do I think we're going to see some big crash from this? I think people might call it one, but I don't necessarily think it will be an actual crash. I really think we're going to see that Christmas rally come into the end of the year. These Bollinger Bands, though, they're getting very tight. You notice if we did come down to that 1212 area, we would come outside of that Bollinger Band at this point. And since they are tight, we could see volatility coming back into this market with a big move very soon. Once again, you still have that difference between the VIX here. VIX is pretty flat, and the VVIX. The VVIX is that volatility of the volatility. You're noticing we're getting an upward move while the VIX is still remaining flat at this point. So it's just something to pay attention to. You notice how tight these Bollinger Bands are with the VVIX. So we could see that volatility come in very quickly, very soon. Now we're going to get into that overall signal that has called a bunch of reversals in this market when it does show its face. Okay, so we want to pay attention as we move to the past. Okay, let's talk about this. July 19th, we actually get this high in here, and we actually get a high on the Qs. So the left is going to be the SPY, the right is going to be the Qs, and you'll just see that we actually see the Qs over the next week or two make a downward move into August. We actually see the SPY make an upward move into August. Okay, so we really want to pay attention to when that signal pops up, because after that happened, we actually saw the SPY start to catch up to the Qs and saw that downfall. So the Qs overall were hinting with that divergence that we are seeing some negative trends begin on individual stocks, tech stocks, and things like that. And the Qs weren't able to catch up to the SPY, which really signals, hey, there might be some downward pressure in the SPY very soon. You notice that the SPY headed to lower levels while the actual Qs was able to hold up a little bit better. The Qs saw some more bullish signs at this point and were holding up a little bit better. We weren't making a new low while the SPY actually was making a new low. So this divergence here actually called this little bounce here, and we get that bounce, and then at the top of this bounce, we actually notice that the Qs made another direction low while the SPY actually was moving to a higher point. So it's just to show you that the divergence between the SPY and the Qs recently, or at least ever since July, has been a good signal that there is a very soon going to be a pullback. Now, I did want to point out one case where this wouldn't happen, and this maybe will look like, how we can tell if this is not going to happen. So we're going to look all the way to the left here. Friday, June 16th, we're seeing this flatness up here, right? We get this flatness between these 2 points all the way to June 30th. And then actually over here on the Qs, we see that downward move. So we actually see a downward move right here. And the way we know this is invalidated is because we start to catch up to the SPY. So we catch up to the SPY, we take out this previous high, and we see that extension after we do invalidate. So we have to be a little bit careful this week, but you do have this signal that's telling you, hey, if you do see this MACD roll over on the SPY and we start to see that downward pressure and this like overall divergence stays intact, then we do have a good chance of that reversal coming in very soon, as in this week. And since the Qs have already started some negative trends on a few stocks, then we will really want to pay attention to that downward direction in those negative trends beginning in the SPY. So the main takeaway from this video is, yes, we are getting that reversal signal, which has called a bunch of bounces, a bunch of reversals in this market. But is that going to hold true? You really need to pay attention if that is invalidated this week, because that's something we are going to mention in this channel throughout the week if it is invalidated. But that is a good sign that we could get a reversal as soon as the beginning of this week. So we really want to pay attention to if those negative trends on individual stocks are beginning or are remaining, and they're not turning back into positive territory on the hourly at this point. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I really, really appreciate it. I do put a lot of effort into these videos. And the good part is we do have that course. So that course is going to be 50% off until the end of the year. And then also you do get those weekly ranges, and you can donate to support the channel if you'd like. And thank you so much if you already have. I hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading this week. And I will be updating you every single day this week, okay? Because I feel like this week is going to be a big one. And I hope you guys have a good night. Peace.